Okay, so now we're going to focus on the second half of chapter 11. In the second half of chapter 11, Miller goes over all the documents and artwork that typically are produced by a team when they're in pre-production for a particular interactive project. She starts with the concept document, and the concept document is what we're doing roughly this week for your homework assignment, which I explained in the last video, and which is posted on Moodle, as well as as well as that you read about in the earlier half of the chapter. So it doesn't line up exactly with everything that she points out that can be in the concept document, but that's the portion we're going to do. She also talks about the Bible. Now, of course, the Bible is not the Bible that you read about in church or you read from in church, but it's considered as important to a project. We're not going to produce a Bible for your final project, so you don't really need to worry about that, but I encourage you to read about it just because it's interesting. And same that goes for the design document. We're not going to be going that far into the project. That would be something you would produce with team members as you get farther into pre-production, but we're not going to be doing that, okay? Now, as you go on, same for number 4, the dialogue script. We're only going to be making a little bit of a dialogue script for when you get into storyboarding, which is number 7. So we'll be using a bit of a dialogue script. Flowcharts might be helpful for you if you're somebody who thinks about things visually, trying to plan out various aspects of your story. So do read through that. You're not going to need to produce anything for that particular item for the final project, as well as concept art, but all of those things will factor into helping you to write the best storyboard. Now, we are going to do a storyboard as well as a tiny prototype. So that's steps 7 and 8. So basically, you're going to be turning in steps 1, 7, and 8. And the other steps you might want to think about a little bit just to help you to do those. But I'm having you do storyboards and a prototype because they're so prevalent these days. You see here on your screen an image of 2 people talking while being shot by a camera person, and the script master is standing off to the left. And even though you're not going to probably have a whole cast of people to help you, nevertheless, in so many interview situations these days, whether you're trying to get funding to start your transmedia project or encourage people to come participate in your transmedia project, or simply applying for a job, you're being asked more and more frequently to put together a short video to introduce yourself and to sell your either yourself as a product or to sell your product to people who are not with you currently in time and space but want to watch you do a video. So we are going to do a short video, a short prototype, and in order to prepare for that, you are going to be asked to turn in some storyboards. Now, I'm going to explain that here in more detail shortly, as well as more in the future as we progress. But storyboards are great because basically what they do is they provide you with an opportunity to prepare for a situation that where you're going to be recording, and that's important because, as you will find, it's not as easy to shoot video as you think it is. So what a storyboard does, you see here at the top says storyboard, is that it asks you to think about each shot that you're going to make. Now, a shot is different from a scene. Remember, we talked about this earlier in the semester, and it's come up again and again over the course of the semester, so I hope you've been paying attention. A shot is just simply uninterrupted footage. And you'll see that each section here, you'll have the shot, and then for that shot you can plan out what your plot is, what the dialogue is going to be as a general outline, what costume or props you're going to need, your lighting, your camera shots and angles, as well as what editing techniques you're going to use. And that goes for each one, for each shot. I will provide you with a template such as this, exactly like this, where you can fill it out. Now, this is important because, say for example, your video is going to be about, it's an introduction to a science fiction world where people plot to overthrow the government in a coffee shop. So you're going to say the plot is, say, for example, Katerina and Eurydice meet in a coffee shop. That's the plot, to discuss the overthrow. Then their dialogue, you could give an outline, like in this first shot, they introduce themselves to one another. And then your costume and props. This is really important to think about beforehand, because you want to be clear, again, with your team and with other people that you've thought this through. Like, what is the science fiction world where they live in? What do people wear in that world? What would Katerina and, I forget the name of the character, Esmeraldine wear? What kind of props are they going to need? You're going to need, obviously, coffee cups. You're going to need a coffee shop. What kind of lighting is there going to be? Are you going to be there in the morning? You're going to be there in the afternoon? You're going to be in the evening? Is it important to you that you have fluorescent light or natural light? You're going to need to think through these things. Also, camera shots and angles. Like, are you going to do reverse shots for a conversation? Or do you want to do low angle shots because you really want to show that they're powerful people? Or are you going to start with the God shot? All these things we've been talking about over the course of the semester, you're going to need to be thinking about what you want to do and why you want to do it. Or do you just want frontality? Do you just want pure, plain frontality? Because it really helps to emphasize your narrative, or because that's all the technical skills you have. But you're going to have to show that you know the terminology, that you know the jargon, and that you've put some thought into why you're going to do it. Also, editing techniques. Do you want to do iris ins? Do you want to do iris outs? Do you want to do wipes? Do you want to do just straight cuts? Or are you going to do jump cuts? Jump cuts are especially popular now, and I hope you remember what a jump cut is, because it's a very specific term that students use improperly all the time. So if you don't know what a jump cut is, and I'm saying it after having said it hundreds of times this semester, and you're still confused, go back and review, ask on the forum, make sure you're using it properly, because in the final project, if you're using jump cuts and you don't know you're using them, or you say you're using them and you're not, that's going to count against you. Okay? So this is a storyboard. It really helps you to come up with a pre-plan for what you do and when you're going to shoot your video. Because for your final project, you are going to be asked to shoot a 30 to 60 second video, basically doing, pitching your project, saying this is what I'm going to do in my project, and using your log line, maybe introducing some of your characters, basically developing a commercial for your product. So you're going to want to think about that very carefully, how you're going to set it up. You might want to ask one of your friends to come over and to hold your smartphone for you and to act to be your director, or you might want to enlist some friends to be your actors and actresses. So you'll see here that I simply Googled some tips for a good pitch video. And this is something that you're probably going to need to do too. This is the kind of research that you're going to be asked to do on your own, because I can't predict every single thing you're going to need to know. And when you come up against a problem, I don't want your first impulse to be, I need to ask Dr. A. Strike. I want your first impulse to be like, what kind of research can I do? What's out there on the internet that can help me to put together this project? This is what we're always telling ourselves about the internet. That the internet is great because anything we want to learn about, we can just Google it and find out. And this is an example of that. So remember the 5 W's. Show rather than tell. Don't hide behind a curtain. Make sure we can hear you. I fell victim to that this week. I recorded these videos without sound and then had to go back and re-record them. Have a great opening. Have a great log line, right? Like, make sure you're doing that. Now this particular, and also keep it short, 30 to 60 seconds. That's called an elevator pitch. And this particular article is called 6 Tips for a Good Pitch Video. So there's all kinds of tips and tricks out there to help you along your way, in addition to the tips and tricks that I'm going to be giving you as we move forward and in your assignment. Okay? So that's all going to go into your prototype. Your prototype isn't necessarily going to be an example of how the game works as much as an example of how well and how clearly you can articulate it. This is important because these days, as you can see, I've moved up here on the screen, right up here, This is for Indiegogo. And I just want to re-emphasize this point again, is that here in the 21st century, so many of us are being asked to not only create videos for ourselves for interviews, but also to create videos to ask other people to fund our ideas. So many of us are going to be working in freelancing, or are going to be asked in order to produce products before we even interview for a job, that we're oftentimes going to need to ask through sites like Indiegogo or Kickstarter for money to help fund our projects, regardless of what they are. And whether you're working in sciences or in the arts, or you're working in computer programming, or you're an English major, or whatever, nevertheless, we're still going to be needing to communicate with other people and to pitch to them. So this is the kind of transferable skill set that this course is supposed to help you to foster. Even though we've been looking at transmedia videos because we need a subject, and I picked storytelling because storytelling is something that we always are doing, regardless of what field you're in, and digital storytelling because that's the medium that's most important to us these days. Because we're going to be asked to either produce them ourselves or to reflect on the videos that other people have produced and decide whether or not we want to participate in their projects, or have other people decide whether or not they want to participate in our projects. So this is really an important skill for us to think about, to learn how to do, and be able to reflect on. Okay, that's the end of this video, and I'll be posting it shortly to Moodle.